Hey, hello. Hi, everybody. Hey, hi. God, I don't know how to start a show. I've been doing this for 10 years and I still have never started a podcast correctly. My name is Jeff May. You saw the title. And I have cool friends, and I have an incredible cool friend to bring you today. This guy is one of my favorite friends to bump into, somebody that I find myself regularly bumping into in the strangest places, an absolute dynamo, somebody with energy that I don't know if I could ever match, which is weird because I tend to be very energetic. Founder and owner of multiple Arsenal Comics locations in the Ventura area, as well as new comic book author. We have the upcoming Archie's Toy Box of Terror coming out. Timmy Heague. Tim,
Hello.
how you
Thank you for
doing,
having me. And
buddy?
thank you. Thank you for that introduction. That was more than generous. Thank you. I really appreciate
I
that.
was literally just reporting the facts. Like,
Wow.
there's
Thank
no
you.
generosity in me saying that you have two comic book stores. That's just a thing that you do. I have my first question for you because I
Yeah.
don't know, and it's driving me crazy trying to
Yeah.
figure out this. How old are you?
I turned 31 in a couple weeks.
How old
Yeah.
is Arsenal?
Not it opened on my 22nd birthday.
You
So
opened a comic book store on your 22nd birthday?
yeah, if you think I have a lot of energy now, I had a lot more energy back then.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
I have a lot of questions about that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I have
I'm
an insane amount of questions about that. And I think hearing that a lot of listeners are also going to have questions about that, because you have created a very successful small little comic book empire in the Ventura Harbor area, which was not empty with comic stores, but you've somehow become this very de facto comic shop spot out there.
yeah. It's the thing with like Ventura being my hometown is like a lot of people think that like because how successful the Ventura location has become and how prominent in the area that it was the first location for Arsenal. When in fact I actually opened up in Thousand Oaks as my first little store because like you said, Ventura had so many comic shops and I didn't want to open up this new business in a crowded spot. So I opened up in an area that I knew people were coming from to Ventura to frequent. So for my first little shop, I brought it to them.
Thousand Oaks was the first one of your shops that I went to when I used to work in Thousand Oaks.
Yeah, yeah, just down
And
the street.
I
Yeah,
forget what happened, but I was like trying to kill time or something. Like I
yeah,
might have arrived before work too early or something. I don't know what it was, but I was like, oh, the comic shops around me. I went into the comic shop. It was relatively early in the day, pretty empty, but
yeah,
you had an employee there, kind of a broy dude that was, and there was one customer I think in there, and the customer was clearly had some form of special need.
yeah,
And the employee that you had was so patient with this man
yeah,
and so like accustomed to it, but also just like kind. And I was like, I like this. Like
yeah. Thank you.
I liked that employee. I wish I remember his name. That was like what, three
It
years
was
ago or
Luke.
something. Okay,
Luke.
Luke. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That for me, like all of that in a nutshell is like for me what Arsenal is about. Like even beyond owning comic shops and just talking about comics in general, kindness is something that like is really important to me. And if I'm going to create a space dedicated to what I love, which is comics, I want it to be just the best vibe possible, full of kindness.
Yeah.
And the special needs community is something that's very important to me. So, like, that story just hits all the notes. So, thanks. And I'm very
Yeah.
glad you got to experience that. That's awesome.
Yeah. It was something that where it was like it was the anti-comic book guy energy. You know, like you
Yeah.
have that like, ooh, you know, that like kind
Yeah.
of, and which to be honest, like I've worked at comic shops with people that were like the comic book guy. And I
Same.
had to tell
Same.
them, I was like, you do know that
Yeah.
you're mean to these people. And they would try to justify it. And I was like, I know the customer isn't always right, but the customer always does deserve some semblance of respect. And
Yeah.
I would get into it with some of my coworkers because they just wanted to be rude to people.
Yeah, it's an awful thing. Like that type of person who's behind the counter of the stereotypical comic shop is definitely someone where being a troll on what used to be just message boards, which is now Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's evolved. Like it's not enough for them, so they want to exercise that in what should be a place of community and love for comics. And it's
Fair.
an awful thing.
I would disagree that this is like some sort of byproduct of like post-internet cruelty, because this stereotype
Yeah.
has existed for so long for a reason. I think it's actually the opposite, where those people now are also finding themselves on message boards and Twitter and stuff,
Yeah.
but they've always been, that
They've always
stereotype
been a
has
troll.
existed for a
Yeah.
reason for a very long
Yeah.
time. And
Now
yeah, it is.
it's
But well, I think that also
look
might
at
have
comic
something to
shop guy,
do
right?
with our like for some reason, I think we're closer in age. And it's probably because you've accomplished enough things that are along what somebody my age would have accomplished. I don't think a lot of 22-year-olds are opening comic shops. And if they are, I don't think they're going to be successful.
No, there was
Um,
not a lot of fellow small business owners from my graduating class at age 22.
Now, I have several questions, and I'm
Yeah.
going to press you on these questions because I
Yeah.
am genuinely curious.
Yeah.
And the first question is, how did you do that? Because I can't imagine a 22-year-old having the capital to be able to
No.
start a diamond
And
account. Like, was it loans? Was it parental loans? Was it bank loans?
no, a lot of people always presume like I had like rich parents or
Oh, I
something, which I in my younger years I took with a lot of anger because like, of course I couldn't have accomplished this. It had to have been a rich mommy and daddy that did it all for me, right? There's no way my sheer will, determination, and sacrifice could
yeah.
have built something. And I used to take it so personal because that was always people's go-to. Because and I realized years later that it was just they couldn't fathom someone doing the 80-hour, 90-hour work weeks. So naturally, me had to have had an easy way out, which was just somebody else's bank account. I wish I had rich parents. That sounds so cool.
It does sound cool,
You
right?
know, my dad's just like me. He's a working stiff small business owner, and a lot of people forget about how brutal 2008 was. And while I opened up my business in 2014, 2008 was still close enough to that date. And
In my head,
it
I'm like,
was,
yeah, back when you were 15 years old.
yeah, not a lot of teenagers in high school for me at 2008 cared about the economy. But considering my parents were small business owners,
Yeah.
I definitely saw that. And yeah, he was just like me. My dad always makes the joke that like he wish he had the money to help me upstart it. How cool would that have been? And looking back, I'm glad he didn't, because like just I don't want to be that type of person. And if I ever have children and if they ever want to be small business owners, which I pray to God they won't be, they don't want that. It's because it's a lot of time and work, and
It
a
is.
lot of time is, I think figuring out on your own is the move. And it was a combo of, of three things in the end. It was a small business loan,
Mhm.
which, I'm always proud to say that
The
the
fact that
line I
you got
remember.
one, by the way, at 22 years
Yeah,
old is insane. Like I'm
it's
literally, that's why it's so hard to fathom. And I think, if I may, and I certainly don't
yeah,
mean to interrupt you, but
yeah.
like that has to be why people think that, right? Because you are a huge aberration. You are and this is a non-insulting
Mhm.
way. You are a freak in how you
I've
manage
been
to
told I can be
acquire that.
pretty freaky. Yeah.
Yeah, like that is such a freakish occurrence to be a 22-year-old receiving a small
The
business.
guy, I always remember the guy telling me that before they saw my business plan and met me, they didn't even know comic books were still being printed. And yeah, which
I mean, to be
was,
fair.
yeah, it's so, I always remember that. And so there was that help. There was a small capital I acquired from working so many jobs before opening up my
Yeah.
own comic shop.
Was
I
that during
worked at a
college?
comic.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
I I used to get made fun of by my friends because I would work 2 to 3 jobs every summer, but I
yeah,
wouldn't
it's
necessarily work over the course of the school year. I would try to just work as much and save as much as I could over the summer.
smart. Yeah.
Smart maybe, but also like I probably should have had better summers
Yeah,
instead
because
of
then you
going
look
to like,
back and you're,
yeah,
yeah,
because I mean I would do like camp counselor
yeah,
from like 7:30 to
yeah,
3:30. Then I would go to Foot Locker from 4 to 10, and then I would go
yeah.
as a bouncer at a bar at like 19 years old. Like I should have been getting laid and like having fun instead of
Yeah,
doing all those jobs.
19 being a bouncer, that I mean, that's a movie waiting to happen right there.
That was pettiness, is what it was. The reason I got that job was because my first ever ex found out that, or I found out that she was using a fake ID to get into this bar. And so I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I ruined this for her? Because I didn't know how to be an adult. And because I wasn't an adult, I was 19. 19,
Yeah.
that's a child. I don't care. I don't care how legal it is to vote.
Looking back, I don't even think me opening up a
Yeah.
business at 22 was an adult age. Like,
It's not like
yeah,
adults are people older than me at all times.
yeah.
But
Well said.
but yeah, that was pettiness. I laugh, but also am embarrassed by it. I try to own the
I think that's
embarrassing
the
things
best
about me.
way
Yeah.
to be about like the early 20s and teenage moments, because
So
it's
you
just
were
like, yeah.
so you're saving money.
Yeah, so I worked at a comic shop on and off from age 15 to literally the week before I opened up my own.
Did they know you
I
were going to open your own?
Yeah, I mean, it was a cool thing because like I was opening on the other side of the county. Like, I think if anything, why be enemies about it? And in the end, I wish that was the mentality always. But unfortunately, when I decided to open up in my hometown after 4 years, they had a flip of the switch. And instead of, wanting to be friends in the community and support each other, it was tons of Facebook posts about how terrible I am. Which, in case you're wondering, my mother made a great scrapbook of all those posts.
It's funny because Burbank, where I am, the
Yeah.
comic shops are all just different enough in their specialties
Yes.
that
Yes.
they're very supportive of each other. And like, I'll be
Yes.
at House of Secrets and they'll get a
Yes.
phone call and they'll be like, oh no, we actually don't sell that. You
Yes.
want Blast from the Past. Like,
And that's what it needs to be, for especially now more than ever, with how hard it is to operate small businesses, let alone comic shops in this current comic book industry. The camaraderie and community needs to be a thing. And so, yeah, we were chill, when it was all up and running, because I was a 30-minute drive away. And I think everyone's mentality was, I mean, well, let me just say, I mean, a big motivation of me opening up my business at 22 was the countless people that told me I was going to fail.
to tell you
I
can't
had
do it. Yeah.
I had so many people, like, I'll just a Christmas list, comical Santa Claus long type list. And
You
I
don't
think,
strike me as oppositionally defiant, but I totally understand. Like
yeah,
that's such a motivating factor to prove the people that don't believe in you wrong.
yeah. And looking back, I'm happy I channeled that spite into such motivation and, able to get it done. But I think if I could go back in time and speak to me at that age, I would probably tell him, don't let the get you down so much. Like, there was,
Like the Chris Christopherson thing he said to Sinead O'Connor when they were booing her.
yes, yeah, just like Sinead O'Connor and Chris.
That's
Yes.
exactly what he said to them,
Yeah,
to her.
I
Yeah.
don't let the get you down. And it's, I think they got me down too much back then, and it served its purpose, like doing what I needed to do to get where I am now. But if I could go back in time and speak to me, I would probably go, chill out a little bit, brother, chill out.
Yeah.
And, but that's looking back in perspective and everything. But yeah, I think they didn't even think I was going to last. And I think they had no idea what I was going to create. And, they were the stereotypical comic shop. You had promo posters on the windows that were 10 years old. You had dust everywhere. Like, I and my best friend, who I'm still best friends with to this day, we were like the only two people working there that had actual energy and just communication skills and were polite human beings and believed in the cause that comics are for everyone. And I don't think they ever saw the Arsenal being a brand, being a shop that's clean, organized, doing events. They didn't understand what model I was trying to do. And once they saw what I created and they saw that that was going to be in Ventura, my hometown, I look back and I understand how a flip of a switch like that happened.
Yeah.
Instead of being, hey, let's be friends, let's work together.
I guess the danger of them being like, well, there goes our livelihood.
Yes.
I think that I understand the mentality. If somebody is in that spot, it's just tragic that it is that way.
Yes.
I have theories.
Yes.
I have theories about your success, and I think it absolutely has to do with your age. And allow me to elaborate, because this is my show. For one, energy. You have energy, and that is key. I think you have weaknesses at that age. And I think the largest weakness is the concept of the long term, because you've
Yes.
only been a thinking human being for 18 years or something like that. Like you're still very young, right?
Mhm.
You have energy, which means that lack of knowledge of long-term stuff also makes you a little more fearless, like Daredevil about it. On top of that, you know better than somebody in their 40s or 50s when you're 22. You know how to access the people that you need to access. You know, at 22 in 2014, you're probably aware of Instagram and Facebook
Yeah.
and Twitter in
You've
ways
nailed
that
it.
the classic brick and mortar comic shop doesn't necessarily have.
Yeah, you well done, Sherlock. You cracked the case. I
It's like
couldn't agree more.
comedy.
That
It's like comedy.
yeah,
I'm not particularly successful because I'm not good at social media.
yeah,
I don't know. And I find it, this is my own thing, but I do find it kind of like desperate when people keep posting
yes.
these crowd work clips and stuff, and I don't respect it. But they're also racking up thousands and thousands of followers
Yeah,
doing it. So I'm sitting here starving with my integrity.
that's exactly what it was. When I got out of high school, Instagram just came to be a thing. Facebook was around for a year to 2 years, being super prominent. And Twitter, I was actively using since I was 15. And I essentially turned dicking around on the internet into a big part of my career. And from the second Arsenal's conception was public, and we had a store opening announcement of a big party, and we had a mini appearance at a comic convention that was locally before the opening date. We were everywhere on social media, and I was the only comic shop ever in that county to ever use social media and to do sponsored ads. I mean, I'm part of this thing called Facebook Business Leaders Network, and I'm pretty much part of it because I was one of the first small businesses of comic shops to go hard with not just social media, but use sponsored posts. Like, I was one of the first business accounts to really use sponsored posts in general. And it was just the perfect storm of just a kid knowing how to use social media and applying it to this dream of the little comic shop that could. And it was the riskiest thing I've ever done, but thank God, I'd like to say it worked out.
I would think so. One of the things that I really like about your store that weirdly I don't think we have, Los Angeles County, which is obviously, you know, we're about 50
Mhm.
miles away from each
Yeah.
other. You're in Ventura, I'm in North Hollywood. We have an embarrassment of comic book talent locally,
Yes, yes, yes.
and
I know where you're going.
an embarrassing lack of events
Yes.
for that. Not by
Which
the way, not insulting in any way. It's just like with House of Secrets, for example, they're like, that's not what we do, and it's not, we're not a huge store. Like
yeah,
that's
the
not really our thing.
comic book Comic Bug, Collector's Paradise, and Golden Apple are the three
Yep.
names of
Com-
LA comics
Comic
that do
Bug
the
is in,
events.
and Comic
Yeah.
Bug is in Manhattan Beach. The
Yes.
Comic Bug is an hour from me. Golden Apple is a very famous shop
Yep.
on Melrose, and they do stuff. They're in the heart of Hollywood. And you said what was the third one?
Collector's Paradise,
North
Comic
Holly.
Bug, and Golden Apple.
Collector's
Collector's
Paradise
Paradise,
is close to me, in, or the one in Pasadena
they
or
have
North
three
Hollywood.
locations: Pasadena, North Hollywood, and Winnetka,
Okay.
which is just on the edge of the valley. And yeah, they're the three shops that still do creator events, and they, they kill it. And the thing with creator events is it was something my county never had in Ventura. So it was a part of my business model since literally day one, like doing a grand opening celebration. I had four special guests there, and then literally
Who
three
are
to
they?
4 weeks after being okay, we had Sergio Aragones.
From
We
Mad
had
Magazine
from Mad Magazine and
and
Groove
Groove. Yeah.
fame. We had Jet, my friend Jed, who did a couple DC stuff at the time, and now he's done some stuff with Archie Comics. Yay, Archie Comics.
Yeah, we're
You
going to talk about
had,
that.
yeah, we had a couple local indie people, which was super fun. And then after 3 weeks later, we did our first signing event with my good pal. To this day, he still signs with us. We still hang out. He's everything I aspire to be in a human being. Scott Koblish.
Multiple guests of the various versions of this podcast, Scott Koblish.
Scott's the best.
I hosted the after party for his wedding.
No way, really? That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, to this day, I actually, if I ever do like a community event at a school, because I'm a sucker for those type of things,
because you're a drug dealer there.
Yeah. Hey, kids, you want some Dog Man? Some
I love that when you're like, it's just my charity work that I do with these young people by giving them their first comic book for free. That's how crack happens. The first hit is free, man. Yeah, but it is great that you do that. I used to run a comic book club at the school I taught at.
That's amazing.
And we survived off of art donations that we would then auction off and stuff like that. And boy,
I want to talk to you about that. That's a great model. Dude, I would love to steal that.
Our last auction, it was like a silent auction. We had pieces by original artwork from Art Adams.
Amazing.
Donated, and Scotty Young.
Wow.
Because Scotty's been a friend of mine for 20 years. And so he did a Wizard of Oz, because it was during the Wizard of Oz era that he was doing.
God, we still sell copies of that.
He did a scarecrow for us on a sketch cover of a Marvels project. And I think we silent auctioned it, and because like people didn't really understand, I think it sold for like $50.
The most cheapest Scotty Young original art sale of all time, right there. Wow.
I have a sketch from him that cost me $15.
That's insane.
I got it from him in 2004. So,
but yeah, Scott, though, whenever I do a school and I have like a little bit of stage jitters or stage fright, I literally think to myself every time how Scott introduces himself when he comes into a room to do a signing, where he's like, "Hey, everybody," and I just think of Scott saying that, and that in my head is what like gets it going. And it's God bless him.
Yeah, you do wonderful events, and normally, because you are an hour and change away from me, and that's a bit much sometimes, but you actually are the site of a very infamous or famous story for me, which is that you hosted a big Spider-Man number 900 event.
I'm still tired from that event. It was great.
With your own cover by
we put Ventura and Spider-Man together.
A love letter to Ventura. It was Ventura. Had Groot there because there's a very famous tree in Ventura. It was all very cute. What you also had there was 3 of my friends. Because
I do hear you have cool friends.
I do, yeah. Dan Kibblesmith, Dan Slott, and Zeb Wells. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going. And I went, and it was very funny because I met my good friend Jasmine there, and we waited in the line. And when we got there, all of the people were like, why didn't you just come in? And I was like, we don't jump lines, like this line is for the people, and we're not going to do that. They were like,
which I told you, for the record, I totally would have let you cut the line.
I totally know you would have. And I don't feel like it would have been particularly ethical for me to do that. I know that that's stupid, but there's kids,
for sure.
One more person in front of a kid baking in the sun, like that's not fun. But
that line was gnarly. I don't think we've had a bigger line since that event. I thought our Patton Oswalt signing was going to beat it, and it got close. But I guess people love seeing their hometown and Spider-Man together.
Spider-Man's a big thing. 4 people being there is a big thing. Like it was huge.
It hit all the notes, and I got to pick up Dan from the airport and like take him to the event. Slot. And it was Dan Slott, and it was crazy because I thought I was driving like the president, because it's like it was
he
nuts.
And I keep dodging recording this show. Like he was supposed to do the show like 2 years ago, and there's never any time, and it's very funny. But yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
First time I met him, he was afraid I was going to beat him up because he was wearing like a Yankees shirt or something. This was like a long time ago, because
that's funny.
He's a co-writer with one of my very good friends, Christos Gage. They did a lot together. And then they were doing Mighty Avengers with my other friend, Koi Pham, also a previous guest of the show.
Yeah.
And like we were all talking together, and he was looking at me, and I had never met him before. And he was like, "Oh, I'm afraid of you. You got that Red Sox hat. You're going to beat me up. I'm a Yankees fan." And I was like, "Is that what you think Red Sox fans do?" I was like, you're a good writer, man. And he was like, "Oh, thanks. And like that was the thing. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. And I was like, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get it graded. I'm going to get these guys to sign it. I'm going to
Yeah,
pay
you went all
for them.
out.
I went all out, got it graded,
Yeah.
quad signed, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, famous, I've talked about it on the Zeb Wells episode, but he made fun of me on the autograph, not knowing that I was going to get it graded. And in my head, I was like, well, who gives a shit? It's not like I'm ever going to sell it. I was like, it's not like I'm going to sell it. This is a memento and I'm getting it framed and whatever. And then, you know, so then, you know, everybody else is kind of like wrote whatever, you know, personalized it. Slot personalized it as well. And then when it came back, I was like, it's not like it's going to be a 10. And it came back a 10. And I was like, I wasn't going to sell this, but wasn't I?
Yeah, and then you have a 10.0, which is just this impossible
The
thing that nobody
rarest
ever.
thing in comics.
Yeah, like a 10.0 of the most like undesirable comic book makes it desirable. Like no matter what, you see that. And like for the record, when you get a 10 or like a 9.9, they make the numbers gold, like
Yeah.
on the label. That's like what, you know, that's their big deal about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the fact that like 4 times signed 10.0.
I do not think there are any other books that are 10.0s that are quad signed. I do not think any exist.
No, I've never seen it or heard of it.
That is a 4-figure book.
Yeah.
It's a book that if I wanted to sell it without, if it didn't have my name on it, I could have sold it for a small fortune.
You got this 4-figure book that has insults of you on it.
And then, so it's like, it's the rarest thing and it's the most worthless thing. And that's so funny to me. And
it's beautiful.
I laugh about it a lot. And people are like, you gotta let that go. I'm like, it's funny. Like, you don't see why that's funny that I have the rarest collectible kind of thing you can get, and it's
kind of your version of the angry girlfriend variant. Have you ever seen that it's on the internet, like in all the comic book Facebook groups and Reddit feeds, like at least once every 2-3 months, because it's just like this thing that gets like bought and passed around from dealer to dealer in the convention scene. And it's I believe it's first appearance of Green Goblin, like an original ASM first appearance of Green Goblin. And it's called the angry girlfriend variant because like I guess he did something to, you know, break her heart, and she realized back in the 60s that he loved this comic more than her, and for revenge it just has all these insults and it's scribbled and it just looks like, well, somebody who got their heart broken and graded it, and now it's just forever in an endless loop, just making nerds laugh on the convention comic book scene.
I love it. That is really
funny. It's great.
But yeah, and that was at your store, and I was like, look, my friend has a store. 3 of the 4 people that are signing I consider friends. I'm going. And I went, and then when I opened it as the 10, it was like a hilarious tragedy. It's like in Fifth Element when Zurg opens up the box and it's like shuts the bomb down, and then another bomb comes up and he just starts like cry laughing. Like it was that kind of energy.
You thought you were going to open it up and you get the yellow light from Pulp Fiction, but it was just that.
But it's just like, it's like if it was a 9.8, it wouldn't have mattered. I would have been like, yeah, this is great, awesome.
Yeah, this is cool. But
a 10,
the gold 10,
extra funny. But yeah, so you have the store, right? You've worked your ass off to build this thing up. You just opened it, and now you're looking at like where it's going to be sort of fruiting from there. Before we get to that, there is one thing I have to do, and that is, it's one thing I have the privilege of doing. And I don't know if you know this, Timmy, but I have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/JeffMay. And if you guys are listening to this on the Patreon, thank you. I love you so much. If you're listening to this episode for free, thank you so much. I love you. I love my patrons more. Sorry, this is how it works. I have a favorite child. If you sign up for certain tiers on the Patreon, and you get early access to uncensored episodes with bonus content, so there will be bonus content to this episode as well. If you sign up, there are tiers, like there's the rookie card tier where I literally mail you stuff. I mail you like, you know, cards from packs and stuff like that. Also, I have producers. So I have various producers, and I have 21 fantastic producers whose names I am going to read right now. Starting with somebody whose name did not make it onto the list the last 2 episodes, and I feel very stupid. So shout out to some guy I hate named Sean, who sent me a message to be like, is there something wrong with my tier? And then I realized in the email that he had sent me that the name he wanted was in there, and I never put it down. So he's getting an extra special package in the mail this month. Shout out to the wandering Jolly Holly unpierced left nipple of the Christmas Fool. Are you a Christmas guy, or what's your favorite holiday?
I'm a big Christmas guy. Love
Is it?
Christmas. Yeah,
I'm
Halloween's a close second, so naturally, like, I'm a big Disneyland guy, so naturally when I get the whole Nightmare Before Christmas Haunted Mansion thing going on, that's just the best of both worlds for me. Just big Nightmare Before Christmas guy. It's my two favorite holidays combined.
yeah, good
Yeah,
mashup.
when Christmas is magical, Christmas is magical.
Yeah,
It's great.
shout out to Eat Shit and Die Grand Canyon. You ever been?
No, I've always wanted to. I've actually never
No.
really explored a lot of American landmarks. I really got to get
You're
to that.
17. Yeah, why would you have seen
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
You're a little baby. Of course you
Just
haven't.
a kid.
Who wins in the what if crossover we truly deserve? Doo-doo suit Bruce versus doo-doo suit Logan. That's a Batman versus Wolverine reference if I've ever heard one.
It's obviously Wolverine because I think over time the poop will deteriorate Bruce's mind, the smell, the fecal matter. It'll get everywhere.
It was a boxy suit he was wearing, not
Yeah.
a particularly mobile suit. And if you ever look at like the early episodes, like he gets knocked around in that suit sometimes. Meanwhile, Wolverine is in tactical gear. Shout out to the producer formerly known as the ghost of Dave Thomas. I haven't had carbs or sugar in a couple of weeks, and I fantasize about deli sandwiches now.
Wow.
I hope you are allowing yourself a cheat, person
Yeah.
going through that, because that is something.
You deserve it.
Aldo Vargas is a couple months behind on his podcast, but he'll hear this eventually. Great. Perfect. You can go and pick up Timmy's comic in the back issue section.
Yeah.
Shout out to Carson. Shout out to Mr. Billy Beck. Shout out to the Tubi Terror Bunny, says support workers, egg Bob Iger. Unless that's legally actionable, in which case please swap in a Hollywood producer. I don't know if it's legally actionable, but I'm leaving it in. What's he going to do? Sue me? Yes, he is. Shout out to that scene in Meet Joe Black where Brad Pitt dies. Shout out to Justin Wood, Bart Bartigan, Dan Adamski, world's humblest man. Shout out to Norm from Cheers, Dan Hackroyd. Mind Freak 555 says, I wish I could have seen you at Dragon Con. You ever go to Dragon Con?
No, I've heard great things though. I've heard that's a really fun show.
It's the con.
Oh, is it really?
People go to yeah. Wow. Dragon Con is like it's built itself a nice little history of being the nastiest little freak con.
Really?
You want a freak? You go to yeah, absolutely. Look it up. Like Dragon Con is it's the Caligula of conventions. It is just all these stories of people just pulling at. I think there was like one year where somebody had already shit on the floor on like the first day of Dragon Con.
Now the real question is then, is the floor of Dragon Con carpet or no carpet? Because that'll make the whole shit clean.
I mean, it's a convention center, so I'm going to assume no carpet. Like,
God, I hate how that's the trend now. I hate it.
It's not a trend. It's a convention center. If it was carpets, they would be filthy and they would have to get shampooed every week instead of swept.
Whenever I think of carpet and convention floor room, though, I think of the first WonderCon post-COVID, because whether they had carpet before COVID or not, whatever, Rob Liefeld was convinced they had carpet. And every time I walked past Rob, I swear it was like just a sitcom bit. Every time I walked past him, I would just hear him muttering, can't believe the show doesn't have carpet anymore. My feet are killing me. Where's that carpet?
Rob and I have, Rob has a love-hate relationship with me. I have a neutral relationship with Rob. I think he's a nice guy and, whatever. But he every time if you disagree with him on social media, no matter what, he'll just like block you because he doesn't know like faces to names at all times. So when
so you got blocked?
When he sees me, but then like one time he unfriended me and I just friended him back and he just added me back. Like, classic. It's just such a weird thing. It's classic Rob. But when he sees me, he loves me. And he doesn't know that he blocked me on Twitter.
Amazing.
Like, he has no clue about that.
The duality of Rob.
Yeah. What's the furthest convention you've ever been to?
I guess shows in England.
Oh yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah. Right? And it was by accident too. So my parents are from England. I'm the only American in the family. And
Eyes. Yeah, I get it.
when I was, I think, elementary school, we went back one Easter, Christmas, whatever, to see family, and there was just this small rinky-dink show that randomly was in town, and it was awesome. That's how I discovered Batman Hush came out like that year, and
Oh
a
wow, so
table
that
had
would
a
have been
full.
like 2004, 2005,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
or maybe a little bit.
And
Yeah, yeah, around that.
maybe '02, '03, and yeah, I picked all those up. It was great. It was just, and I didn't even know that there was a convention in town. We just kind of walked in on it. It was really fun.
I do love when that happens. Sometimes I'll go
Yeah,
back to New England. There's like a little convention, like a little, I call them basement cons, like an old
yeah, totally.
school
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
style,
It
like
was exactly that. Yeah,
yeah. And I love those. Like if there's one
yeah,
within an hour and a half of
yeah.
my home, I'll be like, I'm gonna go to this. Um,
They're more fun it's when you're traveling and you're not usually in that area and you go to it, because if you go to those basement cons in like Southern California and you live in Southern California, it's just the same
same
dealers
people with the
every
same stuff. Yeah.
time. Yeah, and it just kind of gets repetitive and
Y-
boring.
You know what was great about living in New England was the amount of first run Ninja Turtles books that
Yeah.
would show up because New England is where it started, so that's where they
Yep.
went first. So there's like a and like it's where like more people knew these guys, and supported them early. So there's like a massive influx of like old original Ninja Turtles comics. I think I got like a Ninja Turtles #5 in like really good condition, first print for like 50 cents, 11 or something.
Yeah, there's the whole thing with TMNT #1 first print, how like the demand for it was just so high that they didn't even meet the demand. And I guess legend tells that the West Coast didn't even get copies, if
Yeah.
like barely any. And so you'll never find like a first print #1 on the West Coast in a comic collection when you're buying collections, you
Fair.
know?
Yeah. I actually I'm glad you mentioned buying
Yeah.
collections. We'll talk more about that. Shout
Uh,
out to Eat Shit and Die, the Goonies. Shout out to check out this month's Nerd and Dre. Check out this month's Nerd with Dre and Jeff. And then in the brackets, he tells me I can say whatever I want, which I will just say that we are starting a new season. And it is a very exciting season, and I'm very excited to cover it. We just wrapped our season on insane sequels to popular films. And here we go with the rest of it. Shout out to watch me use these prehensile nipples to pick up pennies off the floor.
wow.
And finally, shout out to the Oatmeal Savage. Those 21 people are producers of this show, and we would like to shout them out and say thank you for being just the best,
They're the best.
just the absolute best. We love the best.
Love them. I would
We
die
love.
for them.
I would I would collect money from them. I would do. Okay, so now you are a comic book store owner.
Yes. Yeah,
What
9 years
are like
strong.
give me like what are your 5 main things that you have to do as a like what are the big things you
Oh,
have to do? And I picked the
man.
5 as an arbitrary number, but
Like things that are important to me and I like to do, or things that like every day are just the core essentials.
just what are like for example, the stuff to make your store a better store. Not just like
Um,
make sure that it's
okay,
dusted,
yeah.
but like what are the things
Yeah,
you do that people might not be aware of? Because one of them must be going through collections, right? Like looking at
yeah,
collections. How many
that's
people call you guys to look at their collections?
well, it comes in waves. It absolutely comes in waves. I don't know if it's a universal thing, Freddie Mercury and Gatorade, whatever you want to call it, economic times, but you'll have like tumbleweeds coming through, just garbage, 2090s books that like aren't even worth a quarter.
Yeah, the
And
ones
then,
that say collector's item on the top of the book, so you know it's
exactly.
worthless. Yeah.
And then they get mad at you for not wanting to buy their stuff, but it's in the original plastics, whatever that means. Yeah, it's so that happens, but sometimes when it rains, it pours. I don't know if anyone's aware, but we may or may not be in a weird economic recession at the moment. And people tend to want to sell stuff they don't really care for or use or can't hold on to anymore,
Or they just need to
which,
get, or they need money. Yeah.
yeah, and it's really like depressing. And we've never had in the last like month to 2 months so many people selling as collections.
Does
It's
that,
kind of like overwhelming.
is it there has to be a feeling, and obviously you're running a business, so you can't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
go too personal about stuff like that when you're doing the transactions, but like
Yeah.
that has to feel both great and awful at the same time.
I'm really numb to it at this
Yeah.
point. The one thing I do know though is in this situation, no matter the economic times, if they are a dead parent's collectibles, 90% of the time I do not touch it and do not bother with the sale because the sentimental value they have will equal a number that just does not make sense for me to purchase it and even, sell it. So it just whenever I hear that, oh, my father just passed away and all that, like I know there and then, like I'll still go through the motions and still try and make the deal, but I know through like I just know that it's 90% chance not gonna
And the
go
success
through.
factor is pretty low. Yeah. Cause
Exactly.
I'm assuming it's, with any collection, if you are the proprietor of a business, and I will
Yeah.
say that from working at a comic shop too, I saw that a lot. The best thing and the worst thing to happen is Pawn Stars, because at least people
Yes.
now understand what
Yes.
overhead is, and that
It
if you need to sell something and you only have certain space, you're going to be like, look, I can only pay you half of what we have what it's
exactly.
worth, because I still need somebody to be willing to buy it from me. But then at
Yeah,
the same
it's
time, it's gotten a lot of people with the selling my bug.
one thing I gotta thank that show though for is from time to time, whenever we do get something really good comes through the door and we had no idea it was coming, I get to post that meme of you never know what's gonna come through the store.
Yeah.
I like the last time I did that was just a random gorgeous copy of First Appearance of Silver Surfer. Just like, oh, never had no idea that was gonna come in
Fantastic
today.
Four
Nice.
48.
Yes, yes. And with
See,
that,
I know my
you know your with
I'm not
that
a
bitch
fake
and Jack
nerd.
Kirby cover. But yeah, it's the worst one was, and we're going to go back to Turtles now. It comes full circle. Was when the Kevin Smith show was on the air, the Comic Book Men or whatever it was.
The
You
producers
always
looked to us when I
say
worked at too at one point in time to do a show like that
that's funny.
before they could get famous people. Because we had like the shop I worked at is like
Yeah.
the biggest store in the Northeast, at least. I think maybe on the East Coast.
What was the store? If you can
That's
say.
Entertainment in Worcester,
Oh,
Massachusetts.
okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. The you always knew what comic they had like that week because you always had people come in to the store or call you that following week saying they found it and now they're rich and they have all this they have all this valuable collectibles that we need to look at and it was either a never even close to what was on the episode of Kevin Smith but they didn't know that they didn't care they just wanted to, the cash that they saw and then the worst part is most of the time whenever they had like an expensive collectible that was valuable on that show it was never really an actual number that it was really going for
Yeah.
and it just was just such a just a cluster for us but
The other part about that is that a lot of those things are plants. Like
amen yes
that's
oh
the thing
yeah
a lot of people don't understand about reality TV is how fake the
mm-hmm.
reality is. But yeah, that definitely, like Comic Book Men, that like I was finishing up working at the comic shop like 2012 when that show was like doing well, and we would get some of that, but most of our business was actually people selling DVDs and video games.
Wild.
Like video game resale was such a huge. I was the back issue guy. Back issues took up 20% of our store and they accounted for 5% of our sales.
Yeah.
Back issues are the least purchased thing at comic book stores, at least for the ones that I was working at, because people don't, unless they're trying to fill a collection, don't really care about whatever, like, oh, Captain America, the bicentennial number 350,
which is
like,
a great issue. Yeah, I could truly do a whole like episode class presentation whatever you want to call it on back issues and the market of back issues the last I mean the whole COVID extra money in the economy also transcended in the collectibles market pretty big and
that's the understatement of the century.
but what
The
comes up must
collectibles
come down
market,
though
the collectibles market,
and now it's imploding.
I mean, it's doing okay, but it's not
uh
because like even if it recedes back to where it was before the boom, it's going to look like a drastic fall.
I think it's looking like a drastic fall right now.
We'll put it this way. During a former company that I worked for's greatest years they ever had, we had a bit of a tiff because they sliced an hour off of the minimum payment for because we weren't traveling, to which I had to argue it doesn't matter where I live. You pay me for the content, not for the driving. And I was like, and also, didn't you make more money than you've ever made ever? Like, yeah.
What comes up must come down, though.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's always dips.
it's
And you're in a dip right now, yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's just what's wild though about this phenomenon. It's just like COVID, that collectible boom happened, I'd say mid 2020, and it lasted maybe till fall of 2022, in my opinion. And it's just like, it's really fascinating for me that I've done this so long with buying collections and key comics and super collectible rare books that I've now done this so long where there's this thing called GPA where it tracks recorded sales everywhere for comics. eBay, auction houses, they even find info of sales that happen in the collections that are being sold on showroom convention floors.
Yeah.
Like it's they're that hardcore. And I've been doing this that long now that it trips me out that I will see books sell where I was the highest recorded GPA sale at one time. And now I'm on the other end of that where a book will sell and now I'm the lowest recorded GPA on the market for that book.
Really?
And yeah, and it's a really like interesting thing when you see that for a
Was it a
book
specific
happen.
book? Like, what was the book?
I mean, it's been multiple
Oh,
books in the
really?
last, yeah,
Give
in
me
the
an example
last
of one
six
of them
months to a
so I know.
year. The Well, the big anomaly where I can tell you that things are definitely taking a turn to be a different era for collectibles is the first appearance of Thrawn. And why I think
Heir to the Empire
that's
#1.
yes, yes, yes. And it was a 9.8 copy. And the math doesn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense for it to be a low sale when you have Thrawn being now in media, of the TV show Ahsoka, and it's all like Thrawn is going to be a prominent guy. We're going to see Thrawn figures everywhere soon. We're going to see him probably in a movie after Ahsoka, whatever. And if this happened 3 years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago, it'd be a whole other story. And so to have this book come down, it's really interesting. And
So
one
what's
might
it go for?
argue,
What is it? Do you know about what it goes for now? Like, what was the high
um,
versus the low?
the copy we sold a couple weeks back, I believe, was around like 750. When a high copy, I'm pretty sure we sold 2, 3 years ago for close to 12, 1300.
Yeah, that is a
Yeah,
big disparity. That's a 40% difference.
exactly. And one might argue, because everyone's got in the collectible world, everyone's got their opinions and they're very passionate about it. And I'm sure people listening to me right now could argue that, well, 750 is what it's actually worth, and a realist, that is
Yeah, but
its
that's
worth.
just that's collectibles. Like, it's always
Yes,
eBay sold listings or
yes,
whatever. Like, I get that, but
exactly.
like, but still, like, trends are still trends.
Yeah, and it's all very fascinating, and it's just a weird thing to A, see it happen, but then B, be the person you have a stake in the game, and it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Collectibles and buying collections are still always gonna be a big part of my thing. Back issues have always been key since day one for me. They still are. Granted, it's slowed down like everything else has, but it's still a prominent part of my business. I think one thing that blew my mind is that in this inflation world that we're now in, quarter books and dollar books have now evolved to the same volume of what people used to buy quarter books and dollar books, 50-cent books. Now in this inflation world that we live in, now $2 to $3 is pretty much the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, we sell a lot of $2, $3 random back issues now, and I would have never seen that coming, but we do. And it's really interesting to see like a book where that would have sold for 50 cents to a quarter, you know, a dollar. Now the consumer sees that price point now evolve to $2, $3. It's
That is
it's
fascinating.
really interesting
So is
stuff.
it so you don't do dollar books anymore? Like, you don't have a bargain bin dollar book?
No, well, I've actually never done dollar books and bargain books. Like the lowest now really is like $2, $3. And a big part of why I've never done dollar books is a family comes in of four, and Johnny, Jimmy, Jane, and Joe all want a comic, and their dad's like, "I'll buy you one each." And then they buy a comic off the new release wall, the newest issue of Spider-Man, the newest Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I guess the difference
And
between $16 and $4.
yeah, and then their dad sees the dollar bin and it's like, well, why would I buy you these books? And for me, it's not being greedy. What it's about is getting the kids or getting the consumer onto the weekly comic model or monthly comic model.
It can be
And
both.
if yeah, it could be.
You know,
It
like
could
you are a
be.
business owner. You can, it
Yeah.
doesn't like making a financial decision doesn't necessarily have to be an act of greed, but in only in the same way that opening a business to make money
Sure.
is a form of greed. Like,
Sure. No, I agree.
you
Yeah.
know, don't you shouldn't think
But
of it that way because then you'll spiral if you
but but yeah, it's very fascinating to see the collectible back issue market go where key issues first appearances are, they're declining in value. And when I had a book, and it was kind of like this before COVID, and definitely once the COVID boom happened, it was even more of a phenomenon where, going back to social media, we promote back issues and key issues with social media pretty hard, and we always have since the
yeah, you do.
beginning.
You guys have great stuff on there, by the way. I actually
Thank you.
really enjoy the stuff you guys post.
Arsenal Comics and Games on all the social channels.
I was
Plug.
going to get to that.
But yeah, like we had a book posted last week, Ultimate Fallout 4, first appearance of Miles Morales, Spider-Man, who's probably one of the most popular, modern characters of today. And what's really fascinating is before these economic times, I couldn't tell you the any instance where we put that book on social and we didn't get a claim, an offer, someone asking, if there's wiggle room or, payment plan or something.
It was a
And
9.0.
yeah, 9.0,
Do you
which
think it might be the grade? Because
I don't
it's such a
know.
modern book.
I mean,
I think it was the grade, if I'm
but at
being
that point, if someone wants a Miles book, I mean, they used to want to take it at any grade because at least some grades better than non-grade.
yeah.
It's really interesting. But yeah, we didn't find a buyer, so so I had my online sales team at my warehouse put it up on our eBay page and start at 99 cents. And so now we're getting the sale that way. But for me, I
Has it
always
sold yet?
no, it started last night.
Okay. Do you know what it's up to yet right now?
I think 100. I think
Yeah.
we were originally, yeah. So it's, I'm sure we're gonna get whatever it's worth now, but it's really interesting seeing the collector move more towards what quantity over quality is. Maybe like
Yeah.
a collector now for back issues will buy, buttloads of $2-3 books, but the key issues, despite being cheaper than ever, they don't move as quick as they used to, and it's all very fascinating stuff.
It's at $103.50 right now.
Nice, look at you, nice.
I looked it up. I found your account.
That
You
was
guys have
quick.
99.9% positive feedback.
And
That's for a comic shop.
I'm though because we were 100 for like 6 months straight, and one knucklehead didn't get a package quick enough from the USPS because that's my fault. That's my team's fault, and he gave us negative feedback for it. It was sick, but 99.9 is still
Yeah,
enough to
you
be
only have
happy.
two negatives.
And that volume we do. What are we at?
Yeah,
15,000
somebody gave you a
sales.
neutral saying there was box damage, and you're like, well, we're not those people, right? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I wanted to eBay that because I did want to see where it was. Yeah, it is fascinating. It's such a weird, like the collectible market is so weird because it is so fickle.
When I've had numerous people in the last month who are collectors, ask my opinion and, want guidance off me. And I tell them, first off, why are you asking me? But second, just kind of always what I've been about is just buy what you like, just
Yeah.
just buy what you like, buy something that means something to you.
And collect
Just
what you like.
exactly.
Like if you want to buy from money, I understand. Like, well, then in that
Yeah,
case, do your research. But if you want to collect to display,
yeah,
what good is a first appearance of Silver Surfer if you don't give a shit about the Silver Surfer?
exactly. Yeah,
Um,
it's
okay, so I have a couple of questions because I actually
yeah,
want to talk to you, and we're gonna start to run out of time real quick. So I want to start
yeah, yeah, yeah,
about Archie.
yeah.
Oh, you know what? Oh, never mind. I just realized that those questions are the bonus content. Like
Sweet,
I
cool.
was about to go through, but because it's kind of tied to what we're talking about now.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I wanted to do that. So you guys, yeah, very active on Instagram and you guys
Facebook,
post.
Twitter, and now trying to navigate if Threads or Blue Sky is worth the time and investment. And yeah, social media is weird right now.
Yeah. Do you need a Blue Sky invite? I got you if you need one.
No, well, I might make one for the store. I don't know, but I still. What do you think, Jeff? Do you think Blue Sky is there to stay? Do you think people care?
I think it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Fair enough. I get that. Yeah, I can back that.
You know, like Twitter's going to implode at some point.
Yeah,
it's going to become like an alt-right misinformation factory. So like eventually people, like, I'm still on it because it's the only social media I'm good at, but I can't see myself being on there forever. Plus I have to promote my
You got to promote your you got to eat, man.
I do. I have to eat.
Eating's awesome.
Eating rocks. I haven't, it's funny. So I haven't been eating a lot lately. And then last night I ended up having dinner with a friend, and they knew this really great cheeseburger joint. And so I went and had
a good cheeseburger.
Really incredible cheeseburger, French fries, which I never eat. And I had soda, and then I had ice cream afterwards. And this morning I had to delay my run by like 2 hours because my guests were so mad at me. They were like, you've been ignoring us for so long, and then you just put all this grease and dairy inside and you expect us to be fine with it?
Man, I think it was worth it. I think that 2-hour delay was absolutely worth it.
Weird story about that. I found out that clearly they were using food coloring in their dark chocolate ice cream, because I looked down, I was like, that looks pretty green. And then I was like, oh yeah, that is a food coloring.
Dang.
Yeah, it is. It's weird that you can pinpoint exactly why you took a very discolored Duke.
Sometimes happens, and sometimes it's green.
Yeah. Yeah, just like that haunted Whopper or whatever it was. Remember that black Whopper they did?
Yeah.
Everyone was like, can you believe it turns your green? I was like, why do you care? Like, are you
put that
like
in their marketing as a selling point?
Are you normally worried about the aesthetics of your?
So what was the aesthetics of the Spider-Man then? Was it Spider-Man colors at least?
It was just decidedly red and blue. Just cause for concern.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to talk about Archie, because you're young, you're a comic book shop owner, you know a lot of people in the comics industry, and you have a good relationship with the people at Archie. That I can establish, because you guys do variants for them all the time. I know
Archie's great. They're absolutely my favorite publisher.
Pop's Chocolate Shop. Did they do a signing? Did they do? Was like
yeah?
Ryan?
We did a signing. We had Ryan. We had Jordan.
Guest of the show, Jordan Morris. Yeah, Amy.
Yeah, Jordan's awesome. Yeah, we had Amy, which her new book with Archie looks great, called Welcome to Riverdale, which comes out the same month as my book, Toy Box of Horror. Every October, they have a horror line celebration called Month of Mayhem for Archie horror books, and
which is weird because they're doing it not just in October though. Now their horror line is incredibly popular.
Yeah, so they have a horror book at least every month to 2 months, but for Halloween, October time, they're going all out. And I'm super honored to have my first comic book be not just with Archie horror, which is a line I've been passionate about since day one, with Afterlife with Archie, back in when I first opened, like 2013, 14 is when it came out.
That was what Frank Thierry and Francisco Francavilla?
No, Robert Hack was the writer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which, and that's why
I have several copies of that book still, by the way.
Good. Yes, you should, man. It's a hell of a piece of sequential art, but that book never finished, and it's notorious for not finishing, as well as the Sabrina comic he did. Oh no, I'm sorry. Robert Hack's the artist of Sabrina. The writer I'm blanking on, but the writer is the guy who did Afterlife with Archie. Oh God, Archie, don't fire me for forgetting the writer's name. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed right now.
That's okay.
But the writer did both books. And
it's Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes,
the executive producer of
exactly. And so he got Riverdale off the ground, as well as the Sabrina show. And go figure, comics were put on pause as these juggernauts of television became a thing.
Riverdale.
Yes,
we were not
7 seasons.
We were not ready for the popularity of an Archie that, but
it exploded.
Exploded.
Yeah,
America was waiting for an Archie that
and apparently so.
It's wild, because I watched that show and I was like, this is insane. And I love every ounce. It's like late season Dawson's Creek, with
It was
Archie
lightning in a
characters.
it was lightning in a bottle, and the fact that they embraced jumping the shark every season, going in a whole other direction, and somehow made it work and pulled it off is just bravo. But yeah, I found out that, don't get me wrong, I want those comics to return as much as everyone else. But I found out now that as a writer of Archie horror, every time a new book is announced and tweeted and all that, you'll just have a legion of people replying of, but where's Afterlife with Archie? Where's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? And every time I get that tagged to me, I respond with, don't worry, pal, I'm with you too. I can't wait for those books to return. Dot dot dot. But how about you try these in the meantime? I think you'll
Yeah,
like
right.
them.
Okay, so you've established a good connection with Archie. Obviously, you buy a lot of comics from them. You do some variant covers and blah 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 and all that.
Yeah,
So
and
Arthur,
that's how
I'm
me
guessing.
writing for them came
Okay, yeah,
about
that's
because
my that's the theory, right? Like that was what I think it's pretty clear. Like, but like I
so
assume that's how it happened. What I'm really the most interested in is the process by which you wrote the book.
yeah,
So
so
tell me how it
exclusive
happened real quick, and then I want to hear more about the creation and the stress
exclusive
and
cover
pressure of
yeah,
it.
yeah, exclusive covers, you can do them two ways. You can have a publisher go, hey, do you want to do an exclusive cover with this artwork? Or B, you can propose an idea and concept, and they find you your artist, or you find the artist, and rock and roll. And the latter for me was always the rule for any publisher. And I would come up with a concept, and it would do well for us with all these publishers. And it kind of got the itch going. I mean, you mentioned it earlier with our exclusive Spider-Man cover. That was my best idea of all time. Like, that was my most successful comic I've ever done. It was my most successful idea,
Yeah.
my favorite idea after opening up a store in general. And when things cooled off in the collector market and in this economy we're in, I was like, well, I still want to do exclusive covers. And I started doing them with Archie. Like, Jordan and Ryan and Amy's book was our first one, and it did really well for us, and the math really works on what they need off you in terms of a print run and what the cost of it is.
What is the print
And
run
then
that you have to have?
250, so
That
it's
seems
nothing
like
crazy. Yeah,
eerily doable.
yeah,
And
and
what's the okay? So what's the like? Is that something you can discuss? Like, how much does it cost to do a variant cover for your book?
the print run's affordable. I don't want to
Fair,
do,
yeah.
but if any retailer or artist or whatever is listening, please hit me up on any of the social medias. Timmy Heague, find me, and I'll connect you with Archie. And I've done that for a lot of my retailer friends who want to do an exclusive cover of my book, which I'm super honored and thankful for that that's something they're doing. Like, all these shops are doing exclusive covers of my book, and I'm just completely just blown away by just their generosity, support, and the covers. Like, I'm partnering up with Golden Apple, and they're doing a cover of my book, and they got Tony Fleece of Stray Dogs,
Oh,
and he's
nice.
doing a Stray
You
Dogs
mean of My
homage.
Little Pony?
Yeah, My Little Pony before
Boy,
he became,
Stray Dogs. That's a
yes,
book that was very valuable for a very short time. Because
yeah,
I ended up I have a couple of first
immensely.
prints of it, and
Hmm.
I was like, oh, this is worth really good money. And then I just
Yep,
recently looked it up because I was looking at
yep,
like kind of like liquidating my account, and I
yep.
was like, well, it was nice while it lasted.
Yeah, and that's definitely part of the big COVID boom. It was one of those books. It's still sought after, and we still sell the graphic novel of it like every day at our shops because it is a true master of sequential art, like a masterpiece.
Yeah,
I
it's
could
it's
not
it's
recommend.
like cutesy horror in a very interesting way.
Yeah, it's a horror story involving dogs, in the style of like an original Disney movie, animation style. It's just genius. But yeah, with Archie, we started doing these covers, and I did them with a couple artists, and I've done a couple series of them with a specific artist. And I just like, back in January of this year, so 9 months ago, I started seeing all this, and my exclusive covers being a success with other publishers, and now with Archie. And I'm a huge Archie guy, especially their horror stuff. And I just been having an itch for the last couple years to write comics. And after seeing all these exclusive covers do well and my relationship with Archie being pretty solid, I just I was like, well, what happens if I pitch to them some of my ideas? And what ideas do I want to do? And I had a couple pitches, and one pitch that I was the happiest with, and I thought was the most strongest, which they in the end thought too, was one night I was rereading Afterlife with Archie for the umpteenth time, and at the same time in the same night, I watched that Megan movie, M3 Gan, for the
Yeah.
first time. M3 Gan, and it just kind of clicked, and I put a pitch together and fine-tuned a couple pitches and that pitch and yada yada yada. And I knew by my years of comic book retail and being in the industry that there's proper ways to go about things. And so I asked the person who works at Archie that does all the covers, like, yo, I want to, that's exactly how I worded the email.
Yo, Archie guy.
Yeah, yo, put me in line with Jughead. Yeah, so I was like, hey, I want to go about the proper channels. I'd love to pitch something. Can you connect me with the, the proper, channels? And he did, and it was awesome. And I got an introduction, and they were like, yes, please sign these papers and mail it to us. And it was really funny. They needed specific ink on like the papers, like blue ink. And my ass got in my car so quick to buy blue ink from CVS down the street. And I mailed off those forms. I messaged, hey, it's in the mail. Can I shoot you the pitches? And they were like, yes. And so I got them together, about 4 or 5 of them, including the pitch that eventually turned into Toy Box of Terror, and sent it off. And I was a excited, nervous wreck. And I didn't hear anything until probably about 3, 4 months later. And it was really funny when I finally got the email, which I completely understand a comic, now being in the thick of it all, I totally see the inner workings of everything and how much work editors have and how many, just so much what they do. But it literally, like, I got the email saying, yo, let's rock and roll with this pitch. Literally, like, days prior before getting that email, I was like, I made peace with, oh man, my pitches sucked. Like, it was a good dream while it lasted.
Yeah.
It was, it was fun writing those pitches, and just it was
How
a good
long was each
creative
pitch? Like
process.
what's was like a paragraph long or like
No,
a couple
so
pages each?
I at most had like 2, maybe there was one pitch that was 3 pages. But with my pitches, I like to have working titles. I like to have a tagline of what would be worked as is like a solicitation bio.
Mhm.
And then I like a nice actual pitch of like 5 sentences, maybe 6. And then lastly, a summary of beginning to end of what this comic would be. And I got the word from their senior editor, who was just amazing to work with. I mean, everyone at Archie's amazing to work with, and it was a dream come true. I literally cried tears of joy. I couldn't believe it. I didn't realize how badly I wanted it. It was nuts, like, and how badly
Was it
I
a
needed
dream
it.
to write a comic for you when you were
Yeah,
a kid? Yeah.
I mean, I before owning a comic shop, and I was just a kid working at a comic shop, I definitely thought more about the fantasy of writing comics. Like, I wanted to do screenwriting, comic writing. I wanted to just be the next, writer, and you never know how life's going to take you. And I ended up doing, comic book retail and
Some other
starting.
comic book based thing.
Yeah, exactly, because
Yeah, I
comics
always
are
consider
life.
myself a remora of the comic book industry.
Yeah,
I'm not the shark, but I'm certainly feeding off the sharks.
amen. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
part of the cycle, and you're part of the
I'm I'm
ecosystem.
I'm like the Jimmy Olsen of the comics industry.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm not the Superman, but I am Superman's friend.
Nice. You should coin that. That's good.
I'm not, I think I'll get sued by Warner.
Probably yes. Yeah. Zagloff or whatever his name is, we'll call you personally.
Jack off, I believe is his name. Yeah.
That's well played. Well played. But yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna do some skipping here.
yeah,
So
absolutely,
approved.
please. Yeah.
You were approved. Let's go with this. I'm assuming you
Yeah.
had like an editor call. You had like you talked to the artist ahead of time.
No, and that's again, what was interesting is every publisher, I believe, does things a little differently, and so it was fun being in the inside workings of it. Being on the other side of, from being behind the counter
Ooh,
for
when was
so
this?
many.
Because the book is coming out this month, right?
10/18, just in time for Halloween.
Oh, that's right. It's coming out on my birthday,
Yeah,
October 18th.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Killer Dolls are running rampant in Riverdale on 10/18 in Toy Box of Terror.
Okay, and so when was the from pitch? When was the pitch?
The pitch got sent in around January. I got the response back, I believe, April,
It's a
and
much faster turnaround time than I was expecting, to be 100% honest.
yeah, and that's what's funny is I learned that, and then it was very boom, boom, boom. Like, can we shoot for the script by this time for the first pass, and second script pass by this time, and it was fun because like there was because they're licensed properties, their characters been around since the 80s. They definitely still, despite like
Excuse
the
me?
horror. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Archie's
The
been around since the 80s.
80s?
No, it's been around for 80 years, is what I'm
Okay,
saying.
there
Sorry,
you go.
it's been
I
around
was
for
like,
8. Yeah, sorry,
when you were like, since
yeah.
the 80s, and I
No,
was like, oh, buddy,
no, no.
huge news
Since
on the Archie front for you.
for 80 years.
Yeah.
And so while their horror line goes pretty all out doing crazy stuff, they still have you know a particular way they want characters to be done, or what characters they want to use, and et cetera, et cetera. And I it was fun. It was like little side quests of you know hey, you wrote this thing, now you got to tweak it this way, and blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
it was fun for me, like getting those notes
And
and
having to
tweaking
work, do the
things.
troubleshooting.
Yeah, because my pitch originally featured two more iconic characters, and after the pitch getting approved and them wanting it to focus on this character specifically, it was really fun tweaking things around. And I essentially now got to be the first person who did the first horror take on a forgotten character called Evelyn Evernever, who actually has more appearances in the Riverdale show as a bad guy than she ever did in comic books. And like that's how minimal she has been in the comics through the years. And she was just a creepy doll girl. Like, well, she wasn't creepy. I've turned her into a creepy doll girl, but she was always known for having a doll. And canonically, she is that how you say it? Maybe whatever.
Yeah.
She was Archie's first kiss, and so I worked that in there too in the story.
Okay.
And
Well, don't give
yeah,
me too
I'm
much. I want to read them.
totally, yeah. And I'm very thankful for Archie for giving me this character and giving me the quest of fitting her into the pitch that I wrote and crafting this tale. And it's just really been a dream come true writing not just my first published comic, but it being with Archie, with these characters, and especially their horror line. And so
How
after the
long did
script
it
got
take
approved,
you? Yeah, like how long did it take for you to write the script? That's actually the thing that I really do want to know. Like, was it like
scripting.
like an hour or two every day for a month, or was it like you sat down on a day that you weren't working an Arsenal
Pretty
and
much that.
you banged it
Plus,
out straight through?
yeah, that plus like maybe 3 other nights of like going through it and tweaking things. So like a full day plus like a couple 2-3 hour nights here and there.
All right, that's
And
not terribly bad. For how many pages?
no,
Like
and
12 pages?
it's 8 pages
Okay.
because the book has two short stories that intertwine with my tale. I'm what's called the framework story, and writer Michael Northrop and Danielle Page do the other two stories, which they are fantastic. I am honored to be a part of their stuff. Like it's Danielle Page is an amazing YA bestselling author, and Michael Northrop does the cutest, funnest stuff for DC Kids comics, and he's done some work for Archie in the past. But yeah, after the script was approved, they joined me up with the other writers, and we had one big thread going of making sure everything tweaks and
Yeah.
flows
From what I've
together.
gathered from my friends, that really does create like this
Yeah,
like war friendship that you end up
yeah,
having to have where like the bonds are so strong.
I couldn't agree more. And when I found out I was partnered with an artist, Ryan Caskey, who goes by the name The Spooky King, I was blown away.
Yeah.
His stuff rules. He's done one Archie book in the past, which was the only book that's similar to this one. That book was called Fear the Funhouse, and then this is the follow up, loose follow up, almost a year later, where they put my story and pitch into that series of why like Goosebumps and that type of thing. And it's called Fear the Funhouse Toy Box of Horror, which is the full title of this one. And Ryan's stuff is just insane. Like he does like a lot of like cross hatch stitching type art style, really just knocks it out with immense detail. And I am so thankful I got him, because there's a thing in my book that in my story in I don't want to
No.
essentially there was a part of the
Something that
story.
required his particular set of skills.
Exactly.
Allow me to
And
not spoil your comic for
thank
the
you.
listener. I
Thank
feel like
you.
you're
Yes.
on the precipice of spoiling your own comic.
Yes.
You have like
It,
been 3 times. So
and I'm very thankful that he pulled off the thing I was nervous about seeing.
yeah.
and I'm over the moon. And seeing and being a part of the creative process, even from writer artist standpoint, has also just been amazing. Being on that side of things, like you submit it, but then you're still a part of like, hey, we just got these pages. What do you think? Anything that calls to you, and it's really fun, the collaborative process of it all. It's truly, not to sound cheesy as all hell, but it's a beautiful thing. Comics, man, comics.
Comics are a beautiful thing. I'm going to assume, and this is the
Yeah,
last question I'm going to ask before
yeah,
we end the regular episode.
yeah,
I'm going to assume you're having an event for this.
yeah. I actually, you not, I'm doing 10 plus signing events, like collectively at other shops. I'm gonna call it the West Coast Toy Box of Terror tour.
Yeah,
Um,
do it, man. You gotta push the book. Because well, the
yeah,
thing is like Archie's great, but like not a lot of people like these events really do call attention to books like Archie stuff because it's not
yeah,
the big two, and
exactly.
people think of Archie as being the little digests that you see at the
And
grocery
yeah,
store.
so I'm gonna be at a lot of shops that I'm friends with all along Southern California. I'm even going to the Bay Area for a couple shops,
Oh, nice.
and a couple of those shops have done exclusives, Southern California and the Bay Area. So we're gonna promote that exclusive cover. But for my stores, I'm definitely gonna be signing at my Newbury Park store first because that was my first store. So
Mhm.
I'll probably be doing it on day of release. But then the following weekend, I'll be doing an event with a couple of the artists that did covers for me under Arsenal. Like I got a guy, Ryan Carr, local horror artist, a good pal of mine. We've been doing a series of Archie covers where he paints them in he literally paints them in like a very 1950s Coca-Cola ad style. And
Yes,
they're always
I've seen
reading
them. They look great. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. And there's always some part of horror on the comic book cover that those characters are reading.
Yeah. There's
And
some, yeah,
so,
they're reading Archie books.
yeah,
Yeah, that
but
I've
with a
seen those. They're
twisted
great.
take.
Yeah.
And
He's very
so
talented.
for mine, it's going to be an Archie character reading, Toy Box of Terror. But on that cover of Toy Box of Terror, it's me being murdered by the killer dolls.
Perfect.
And yeah, I cannot wait to sell that to so many people that have been dying for a comic
Your
book
poor
cover.
parents are going to have to buy this.
Yeah.
They of watching you get murdered.
They're gonna frame a copy, and then I got my high school art teacher, who I'm best pals with, doing a cover. And
That's
so,
so fun. That's
yeah,
such a
it's
cool
super
thing.
fun.
Toy Box of Terror comes out October 18th. Make sure you pre-order it from your local comic shop, wherever it is. If you don't know where your local comic shop is, go to comicshoplocator.com, type in your zip code, and it will tell you where you go. I am a fierce proponent of local comic shops. Please don't buy your comics off Amazon. Go to local brick and mortar
Amen.
shops. Jeff Bezos doesn't need the money, but Timmy does. I mean, he doesn't, but he does. Or else
Some weeks I do.
what I want you guys to do if you get a chance on your social medias, you can follow at Arsenal Comics and Games, at least on Instagram is the Arsenal Instagram,
Yeah,
as well as
Insta, Facebook,
uh,
Twitter, TikTok.
and you are Comic Boss Timmy.
Yeah, which that is my handle and all the things. Which I laugh now because it was something I made when I first opened the store, and it was just kind of like a whole, well, look at me, I'm a boss, and
Yeah, you
I'm
were a
comic
22-year-old. It's
books.
fine.
I was a 22-year-old, and now it's hilarious to me because like I've learned after doing this for 9 years that, man, being the boss kind of
It
sucks.
sure does.
And so now I'm just like, comic boss Timmy, that's me.
You can change your handle.
Oh, but it's already on my business card, brother. I'm too committed.
Oh yeah, you could never get a new business card.
That's a whole thing.
You can also, folks, if you want to support Timmy directly outside of social media, you can actually go to stores.comichub.com
Yes, love the
slash
hub.
Arsenal _comics _ games. And you can literally order stuff. You guys have a great shipping. You have a great reputation for shipping. You have sale items. I went onto your website. The reason I know about this, I found your website
God
looking
bless
for
you.
your origin story, and you don't have it on your website.
Yeah, I like to keep them guessing.
I think you should have a section like a homepage that talks
I
about
appreciate.
how you
Yeah,
get there. I think you should give yourselves more credit and not just be like buy some.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We got so like social, like when it comes to stuff like that, I feel like social media is what we tell with our story, like we're crafting our story. But you're right, it needs to be on the website. If you go to our Instagram, the link in bio is like a link tree,
Mhm.
and you'll have all the stuff that says, like our eBay page, our website for new comics, our exclusive covers, which I already got a few exclusive covers revealed for Toy Box of Terror already. Like the ones that have been revealed are by artist Bill Galvin of Archie fame. He did a Child's Play homage cover that looks like a VHS tape, same with M3 Gone, as the kids call her, where that one's replaced with Veronica, which a fun Easter egg for you is that was originally my pitch, whereas Veronica as the AI doll with a little bit of sorcery involved. But Cheryl actually in the comic of Toy Box of Terror is the Megan parody. But for
Why are
my
you
homage,
spoiling your book? Stop it.
Cheryl's in the solicitation. Cheryl's in the solicitation.
Okay.
No
All right.
spoiler.
Okay.
Um,
I just
but
don't want you to, I don't want people to be like, why would I bother buying the book that you just told me everything that happened?
totally. We
You
already
got
had
to
story
leave them
time with Toy
guessing.
Box of Terror. Well, that's why the
Timothy.
last page is going to be crazy. Yeah, and so we got an exclusive cover with the Megan parody, Child's Play. Archie has a webcomic that's released every Friday, which is amazing, called Bite Sized Archie. And the guys, Ron and Vincent, that knock it out every week, just do a hilarious webcomic with these little, they're called Bite Sized Archie for a reason. You know, it's if you like the Scotty Young style artwork, it's essentially that, but with Archie characters. And I got them to do their first comic book cover as an exclusive, which is pretty killer. And then the next cover I should be revealing that's an exclusive through Arsenal for Toy Box of Terror, which is if you thought my high school art teacher was cool, I have a tattoo on my arm of Mike Allred Madman.
Oh, hell yeah. I
And
love Mike. He's the best.
he is absolutely the best. And he's just a comic book hero and mentor of mine since I was 15 years old. And I have
He's another one I've been
somehow,
trying to get onto my friggin' show and we could never
he's
schedule it.
he is one of the fact that he has, spoiler, done a cover for me blows me away because he is the busiest dude.
He
Like
sure is.
he
He's a big
just
six scale collector. That's why he became
immense big slicks. We talk about toys all the time. I love the 6 scale toys too. And yeah, it's just I love comics and I'm just so happy to
good.
finally be making comics and
Making comics and selling comics.
yes,
So
sometimes
Timmy,
reading them too, which is
sometimes,
nice.
yeah, boy, I'm backlogged. I think I'm
Yes,
comics
tell me
out of
about
habit at
it.
this point. Timmy, we got to say goodbye to the freeloaders.
Goodbye, freeloaders.
So
I love you.
we got everything promoted that you needed to. If you guys want to hear more and you are listening for free, why don't you come on over to patreon.com/JeffMay and you can get access for $5. You can get early access to uncensored episodes with bonus content, as well as Patreon exclusive shows like Ugh Fine with Kim Crawl, as well as the monthly show. You get early access to Nerd, which you can also get for free with Dre Alvarez. Really great shows that we put on here. I do a lot of pack breaking stuff with I Must Break You, which, you know, if you sign up for the rookie card tier, you actually get stuff in the mail, personalized care packages. That is a very, very rare thing to get from Patreons. And I don't think I'm making money off of it, but I just like doing it. So it's really fun. You can see me live at Mint on Card the second Friday of every month at Beautiful Blast from the Past on Magnolia in Burbank, California. Timmy, so much fun. Oh, also Instagram, all my social medias at Hey There Jeffro. I don't know. As of recording, I'm on a social media hiatus, but I'll probably be back by the time this is released.
They always come back.
Timmy, thank you so much.
I
will see you over on the Patreon for some bonus content.
I'll see you on the other side.
Say goodbye to everyone. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, everyone. Our artwork is created by Justin T. Brown, who can be found at Artness by Justin Brown on Instagram, as well as artnessbyjustinbrown.com. That dope music you heard is by Troy Nababon, available at Troy Nababon on Instagram, as well as at troynababon.com. Nababon is spelled Nababan, and boy, does that shred. Thank you all so much for listening. See you next time.